The NCAA is going to war with college football, and Tennessee is front and center. But unlike in years past, the Volunteers are fighting back. They're not going down without a couple punches, and they have a little bit of backing from a neighboring state. Virginia is also suing the NCAA for NIL purposes. So let's break down what's actually going on in Knoxville. What does the future look like with NIL in college football? And if this court case is won by the two schools, are we about to live in a world where NCAA boosters don't have a say on NIL? Let's go ahead and discuss. But if you are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. We talk college football every single day. Recap in 2023, a look ahead to 2024, dumb predictions, future predictions, any bit of nonsense. So if this is the type of content you need to survive the dreaded offseason of college football, might I recommend that you smash that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment telling me your thoughts on what's going to happen with Tennessee and the NCAA. Does anybody really know what's going on? Tell your friends, your family, your mortal enemies, best of bros, the drunk dude passed out at a cookout parking lot, Volunteer fans, college football faithful, and SEC aficionados everywhere about this channel, because we're on the race to become the #1 YouTube show talking college football daily. And we're going to get there. So jump on in while the water's fine. Continue to follow me on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson. That way, conversations surrounding our favorite sport never have to stop flowing. Okay, so it's college football versus the NCAA. If you are a fan of any team at the FBS level and want to see eventually your roster hoist up a national title, however you do it, you are rooting for the Volunteers and you're rooting for Virginia. I get it. You may be bleeding the red and black of Georgia. You may have the crimson and white engulfed inside of your brain. You may love Missouri, Kentucky. If you're in the ACC, Florida State, Miami, doesn't matter. You're rooting for these teams to come out on top. So basically what happened was the NCAA started an investigation on Nico Iamaleava's recruitment, especially due to the NIL circumstances. However many of you were paying attention during that time, Nico Iamaleava was reportedly going to get an NIL deal worth roughly around $8 million. And then there was some speculation on one of his visits that involved a private jet and a couple of boosters, a private meeting, all these things that kind of unfolded. And the NCAA decided to go ahead and say, this is not what's going to happen. Well, Donde Plowman, the Chancellor of Tennessee, sat back, bided her time, and then said, I'm ready to hit the red button. Boom. Let's go to war. Comes out with a statement saying that the NCAA allegations are factually untrue and procedurally flawed. Moreover, it is intellectually dishonest for the NCAA enforcement staff to pursue infraction cases as if student athletes have a say to NIL rights, as if institutions all have been functioning post-Alston, which is clear and unchanging set of rules that are really violating them. Well, a couple days later, we get news from Pete Thamel that says there are lawsuits going on. People are suing each other. We're going to court. This is going to be brought up to the highest names out there, and it's needed to happen. So that's what's going on in Tennessee right now. Here's the thing that really is a good thing. No matter what you think about Tennessee or what you think about a program like Virginia, they're throwing a punch. They're going toe-to-toe with the bully, and they're saying, we're done. We've had it. We're so sick and tired of you running the playground that we call college football, and we're going to go tell the teacher being Congress and those way up top that are going to eventually have this decision. They're not backing down, and that's what needs to happen in college football. You don't need people who don't understand the rules. Donde Plowman says it perfectly. You completely change the rules all the time. Are we supposed to keep up with the times with you? You drop new bylaws like we drop weights in a weight room after a big time set. That's what goes on with you guys. So how are we to trust that we did anything wrong when you don't even know what the rules state? And this is not uncommon. Go back to last season. Who was one of the biggest stars in college football that wasn't getting discussed enough? Tez Walker. Well, Tez Walker was a kid that ended up transferring to North Carolina. His story is really intriguing because he goes and plays at Kent State, then he goes to another school, never plays, so he does get another eligibility waiver, and he gets to go to North Carolina. Well, leading up to the start of the season, NCAA says, well, we have some problems with the transfer portal situation. We're going to have to look a little bit more in detail with it. And they end up suspending him. They say he's not eligible for the first few games. And then like 3 weeks goes by and they go, oh yeah, no, he's eligible now. And so what the NCAA did to a guy like Tez Walker was your draft stock is going to plummet. Your production is going to plummet. this is going to affect the way that you continue your career. That was the baseline, and that's exactly what happened. Tez Walker could have ended up being a future first-round pick just based off of pure talent. Now, we don't know where he's going to get drafted, and that was because of the NCAA. And of course, there were other things that have gone on. There was a player that transferred from one school to Florida State, be closer to his mom due to her health. They said, no, you can't play. And then there was the Mason Smith thing down at LSU. Anybody remember that? Where in an NIL era, because it wasn't reported, it was an NIL deal, he was suspended a game because of NIL wasn't officially in effect. But everyone else that does it does not have to get suspended. Like, do you understand the NCAA is basically twiddling its thumbs and saying, how do we stay relevant in the news today? Oh, I know. We're going to go ahead and say that this quarterback, the number one QB of 2023's recruiting class, was doing some things behind closed doors that we didn't know about. That's a good way for us to stay in the news. And lo and behold, here we are. No matter what happens in this court case, what you can say is that at least Tennessee and Virginia are swinging. They're not afraid of the college football world anymore. And they say, we know what we did was right. And we know that your rules are drastically changing. And we know that every single time there is an infraction that goes on, it usually gets resolved because of you don't have the findings and the solutions to be able to solve the problem. So we're in good hands with this one. They're fighting back. And that's why, as a college football fan, you are rooting for this. Because eventually what's going to happen is if Tennessee wins this case, the NCAA has no say on NIL anymore. They can't have the judgment on what unfolds when it comes to that. Now, what will have to happen is changes to college football, whether that means you get a commissioner that runs and oversees everything, whether conference commissioners have a more dire say when it comes to college football playoffs, when it comes to NIL funds, what you're allowed to utilize in favor of the transfer portal, recruitment status, all of that. Or maybe we find some other juxtaposition where conferences run with internally. So the SEC, they get a certain amount of money from media rights deals. The same thing goes for NIL funds. And the same thing goes for the Big 12, the ACC, Mountain West, Big Conference USA. Doesn't really matter on that. If that happens, well, now the power is given back to the schools. The power is given back to the boosters, those who are funneling in the funds to make sure that teams are hyper aggressive, staying on the pathway. And it's a good thing. It is. What would you rather have? Your boss come in, tell you, hey, I need you to work overtime for the next 6 weeks in the office every night, but you're also not going to make any extra pay. Or you work from home and you get that extra pay with it. You still got to do the work, but you get to have a little bit more comfort. You get to have a little bit more say on what you're doing. Maybe you take a break for a second. You go get a cup of coffee. You're in control of what you do. That's the NCAA situation here. They want to reign supreme on powers that they don't understand, on powers that continually are on a casting carousel of unsituational unknown. And so I look at the situation, and for starters, I just laugh. And I think every college football fan out there should be hysterically cackling at the moves. Because once again, Tez Walker, oh, it's a different situation than what we have going on at Florida State. Oh, Mason Smith, well, it's a different situation with other NIL deals. Now we got Nico Iamaleava and Tennessee at the forefront. And difference is they're swinging, saying, no, we've had it. We are done with these rule changes. Figure out a byline that's not going to be messed with, that's going to be implemented. And if we have that, we're good. But until you guys have it in written form, and it won't change overnight to where one day it's okay and the next day it isn't, we're going to go about it the way that we see fit. That's what has to happen. And you know what? For college football, it could end up being a blessing. I think that this is going to be a monumental move that drastically shifts the tectonic plates of college football for good, bad, indifferent. That'll come at a different time. But it's a good thing to see programs fighting back. Tennessee is fighting the hard fight for the rest of us. They are basically Leonidas at the final scene of 300, watching the arrows come protruding at him. He is not leaving his post. He is standing his ground, and he is making sure that everybody remembers what happens. And if that does happen, it's history in college football. That's all this is. It's history in college football. So I'll be intrigued to see what the outcome is of this court case. I'll be really interested to see what happens with the future of college football if the NCAA loses. And I think that they will. I really do. I think that when you look at what's going on in Tennessee right now, they have a case. And more importantly, they have the backing and findings that say they're in the right. Crazy times in college football. But it's very clear. The NCAA is swinging for the college football ranks, and they're about ready to go ahead and take the strikeout. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.